What is up, everyone? Hey, I'm back after a week of hiatus. How you guys doing? What's up? I can see some people joining. Great. So let me know if the music's too loud. If it is, I can just turn it down. Maybe I'll turn it down a little bit. There you go. What is going on, everyone? So we're back. Last week I couldn't make it to stream because I was a little sick, but I'm back. As you probably you saw the stream on Monday, the demystifying post-production stream. That is all in good. Hey Anthony. Yeah, I'm fine now. I was a little sick last week actually. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's break in a sense, because again we had the demystifying post-production, and yeah, and I hope you enjoyed that too. It was a little bit of a stressful stream for me because I tried to do the entire ZBrush to Substance workflow on one go in 1 hour, which I kind of managed to do. I went a little bit overboard, but it was great. All right, so we're gonna keep working on our Dragon Ball Z fan art piece. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not in the correct camera. There it is. This is the progress I did this week. I worked a little bit on this, and I started making the interior for the ship. You can see it right here. And I did a little bit of some experimenting here with the legs, and that was basically it. And I wanted to show you guys how I usually approach creating interiors, like this soft cushion kind of chair over here, creating some fairly simple geometric shapes over here to make it look like a cockpit. You can see inside there's all sorts of stuff happening. There's like some pistons there to lift this up. Using Z modeler, using live booleans, array mesh, but the cushion in the chair is going to be the main, let's say, center focus of this stream, because I have a couple of techniques to show you guys using panel loops and using traditional sculpting techniques, but also some poly grouping magic happening over here. This is really cool. I'm having a lot of fun with this, guys. I mean, it's going back to my hard surface kind of roots, you know. So it is fun for me. Let me just move this. For some reason, it's not moving. Okay, let me just move my reference up to my other monitor over here. There we go. All right, so I did a duplicate of this tool so you can see where we left off last week. We kind of made this little glass shattered kind of thing over here. I did rotate these a little bit, like 45 degrees, because I wanted to work on the leg from the side view, and then just use array mesh to mimic it on every other instance of it. Maybe on the next couple of streams we're gonna go over these panels and make them a little bit more detailed, and over here like panel lines and all that. But what we left off last week was this, and then I'm not sure if we had this lip over here, but we did have some hollowing out inside, which I just tweaked a little bit. And you can see what I'm doing is basically the interior of this section over here, and I just extruded a couple of faces over there. So that's basically all I've done. This is all the body shape over there as well. And we're gonna fill this up with the cockpit and all the other hard surface things that we have going on. Remember, we still have in our scene the rocks and the terrain. Like, this is still part of like a much larger scene. Then we're gonna make some cool shots, maybe inside a ZBrush, maybe use either Redshift or maybe some non-photoreal rendering with filters and all of that. Cool. Now let's get this off the stream, because I had a couple of questions on our last stream, which was on the demystifying post-production. regarding a slime bridge and how I go about making some like web networks with slime bridge. So I'm gonna just demo this here on a very simple shape. So let me just do a couple of like tombstone-ish kind of shapes. So I'm gonna go over and do the same thing I did on the stream. So basically just create some cool and simple shapes over here, just using my extender. Whoops, not this one, sorry. So some resolution over here, no creasing, and then we can just scale this down like so, and delete these, and let's close holes over here. Okay, Z modeler, delete the edges over here, and we can now either we can create on a single subtool, or we can just create two separate subtools and then have some sort of mesh in between. That's what I usually do, because usually this has a lot more detail than what I have right here. This is just a simple, so you guys can get the demo. So it's just a very simple shape, very simple topology as well. So we have some weirdness going on over here. Yeah, there's this thing over here that needs to go away. There we go. And now let's just smooth this up to 6, go 3. Yeah, so we have this sort of shape right here, right? And so let's imagine that we have, I don't know, another one right over there. And let me just split this. So I'm gonna go and split unmasked points, right? So let's imagine we have two subtools and they're different in sizes maybe. Let's just do some, whoops. Let me just snap my pivot. If you don't know how to snap your pivot, just press and hold Alt and tap whatever you want. And you can actually snap the orientation of this. So you can actually go hold Alt, left click and drag, and then as you can see, it's snapping to those points, whatever point I want. If I wanted to snap to this corner, I can just go. This usually works better without the dynamic subdivision. So I can go like this and then snap it to this corner over here, and it's snapped. You can see it's perfectly lined with that vertex. So what I usually do is I try to snap this over there and then over here, or maybe over here. Whoops, not this, but there we go. And now I can go. I usually had that that edge loop in the middle to help me snap the pivot, but that's fine. So what I want to do is I want to scale this up a little bit. So maybe I'll scale this up like that, so we have a smaller and a bigger tombstone. We can also just extend this a little further, so it's not just bigger, but it's also longer in its shape, right? So let me turn off this dynamic and let's see. Whoops, again, I always miss. So let's see if we can get, yeah, something like that, right? So yeah, let's uncrease this. I have my own custom menu for this. So uncrease, Control W, just for the sake of my OCD-ness. Let me just go and push this up a little bit. All right, so we have this, right? So what you usually have, what you need to have to use Slime Bridge is either a single mask shape or two masks, and then it connects both masks. So what I usually do is I either have some sort of like Z-sphere going on over here, and I use Z-spheres to sort of prime this to get the shape that I want. And you can use whatever you want. I just prefer to use Z-spheres because it gives me more control. I can use this transparent node over here and just have this, and then I could just draw another sphere like that and just push it down like that. I can actually go over here and then just tap with the draw button. We can scale this down, or we can keep it like that. It actually works. You can actually then move past this, so we can see like our adaptive skin is basically a dynameshed mesh, which for this scenario that works fine, because we are not gonna do some clean sculpting or whatever, just using this as a template for the masks. So we can even have the same over there. We can just add another one, another Z-sphere over here. It's projecting. So, and then we can actually just move this wherever we want at the end, and then draw something like that. Draw this. I mean, this already works, right? So when I press, let me just create this adaptive skin. I can lower the density and then just make adaptive skin. I'm gonna hide this Z-sphere for now, so we don't need this. We only need our adaptive skin. So this, right? Can have one single poly group. And one other thing that I usually want is to have a little bit of a lower mesh, so I can go over here. Let me just use my smooth brush a little bit and then just re-dynamesh this, and you can see what's going on. Let me see if I can get a different poly group so you guys can see this. All right, so this is my basic shape. I could just smooth it out a little bit because I don't want this to be super harsh, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because we're just gonna get maybe coming from the top to like this bottom over here. So as an example, I'm gonna mask a small section over here, and I'm gonna go down to slime bridge and just press slime bridge, and this is what it's doing, right? It's connecting different types of topology sections to creating bridges, like organic arcs and bridges, and then connecting those arcs together, right? So it's basically randomly bridging different parts of the geometry. So it's why it's called a slime bridge, right? So in this case scenario here, what I want is actually, I want a section like that, and then I want something like here, maybe over here, like some of these over here. We can then use like all sorts of like deformers and stuff. And the same thing goes over here. Let me just turn on ghost mode so I can actually paint my mask properly. So something like that, right? And the cool thing about this is that it doesn't matter the shape of the mask, because at the end of the day, Slime Bridge is going to procedurally and randomly connect those two. So now if I press Slime Bridge, you're going to get a connection between the two masks, right? It's just too random. There's not a lot of tension, so it's like these weird kind of vine shapes, you know, just going all over the place. So what I did in this case is I upped my tension, and then you can just keep testing this. So if I get maximum tension, you get, you know, just two basically connections, right? Very straight connections. So I want to get, I don't know, maybe like 80 in the tension, and then just press Slime Bridge. And this is going to get you some arch, like some curvature over here, but it doesn't really, maybe I want like something like 90. So let's go 90. There we go. Right, so you have these connections. This works fine. And now you can see you have like bridges, branches, and capillaries. So you have to think of this like primary shapes, and then secondary shapes, and then tertiary shapes. So the bridges are actually the big tubes that go in. So the bridges would be maybe the amount of connections that you have, like the big amount of connections. Then you have the branches, and those are the smaller ones. And then you have the capillaries, which are these ones. So I want to keep the capillaries, but maybe if I lower the bridges to 0, you don't get anything, because there's no bridges. You need at least one bridge. So if I have one bridge and press Slime Bridge, you get one of these connections. So in my case, maybe I want like, I don't know, maybe like 4 of them, right? So you get like 4 bridges. They're just too tight together, right? So maybe I want to fill in this mask over here. There we go. And now if I lower the the capillaries and press slime bridge, you get no, well, at least a reduced amount of like in connections between the tension points, which I don't want as well. So I might want like maybe like 30 something, and then I want to lower my branches. So if I go slime bridge, you can see you have more capillaries, but you only have like 2 branches. So it's basically you have 4 bridges. So it's 4 major connections with 1 branch each. So if you get 4 by 4, oh, geez. So you get 4 by 4, you press slime bridge, you get something like that, right? So here's the tricky part, right? So let's say this is kind of how I want it to work. This has polygroups, right? And this is important because if this has polygroups, then I can just hide this and I get only this, right? So I only get my slime bridge result. I'll just split this because I don't want to get rid of it immediately because I might want like a second layer of like webs and stuff. So I'm just gonna go to subtool split hidden. In my case, it's basically a hot. It's not a hotkey. It's just a custom menu, but it's there now. It's a separate subtool. And what I want to happen now is I want to close these holes that were left since I split the meshes. So if I press close holes, it's geometry modify topology close holes. They now close and they have a single polygroup. So now by pressing the gizmo button, which is W in my case, I can control tap this, and now I'm masking everything off except those things, right? Now the cool thing about this is that I can shrink or maybe blur the mask out a little bit by control tapping, and I get a mask that's sort of like this middle section right over here. So I can invert this and then sharpen this up a little bit and maybe invert it again and blur it again. And here's what I usually do. So let's go back to our thingy here. Let's turn off the masking. You can maybe hide this one. So we have this. Let me hide the mask. It's still there. Control H to hide the mask. And now if I go to my dynamics and I say, all right, I don't want any collisions. I don't want this to collide with that. I just want the shape, right? This archy kind of shape. So if I go, let me just dock this on my side shelf over there. Let me go over here. So we have our dynamics. And if I press run simulation, it's not doing anything. It's not doing anything because it is, this music is kind of too much. I just, this synth wave is a little too much. I don't know if do you guys think the music's too loud? Just let me know, okay? So here's the cool thing. Whoops, yeah, so it's in a different orientation. That's the problem. So we want to do, we want to rotate this. Jesus, I modeled this on the wrong orientation. So I'm just going to go and use the pizza boxes here. And I want no masks. And I want to rotate this in the X 90 degrees with the pizza box mode on. So that means I'm rotating every subtool. Except for the ones that are hidden. Doesn't really matter. So, alright. So now I have this. Again, let's just... with a gizmo, control tap. Or you can also just go over here, select this, and then control tap, and then deselect. And now you have your mask, right? Just on the caps, basically, right? So now let's blur this out a little bit. Invert the mask, sharpen by control alt tapping, and then invert it again and blur it again. So you get a little bit of a gradient over there. What I want to do in the dynamics tab is I don't want it to affect the brushed points. These are basically the points that can be sculpted. So basically anything that's unmasked. I want this to affect the masked points. And then you can also fade the border even further. So if I do fade border, it's going to affect a little bit the area. Maybe I don't want that much. I want this to be like 2. So now if I run the simulation, I'm dropping this, right? One other thing that I could do is I can lower the gravity and then just drop it again. And we're getting a little bit of some sliminess over there. So maybe I want to inflate just a little bit. So if I run the simulation now, it is going to inflate and drop this to the bottom. So this is usually what I do, basically, using Slime Bridge and then using the dynamics to drop this down to the floor. So let me add some firmness over here. So if I add some firmness, you can see it's not going to drop as much. It's just going to drop a little bit. I can run the simulation faster a little bit. Actually, I can do like 2 gravity strength. Maybe more, maybe like 5. And run the simulation. And it's going to drop. And there we go. Now we have this sort of effect over here. Of course, this is too fast for me to do, like, but you can add to your slime bridge, you can add a lot more branches maybe to get that intertwined kind of section. One other thing we can do now, since this is too skinny, we can just go over here with our inflate brush and turn on Sculptors Pro. This is something I usually do. So go to Stroke, Sculptors Pro, turn on Sculptors Pro, and then just start inflating. So going over here, inflating this. It's not inflating. Oh, it's masked, of course. So it's just hidden, right? So, whoa. Easy there. I can actually turn off for now. Let me just turn it off. And just inflate it a little bit. Just inflate this. Of course, this is too, you know, it's not that great because it's has too much. Maybe I needed to add some more tension to the slime bridge. But this is the main kind of workflow, you know, just using slime bridge and then the dynamics to kind of drop this down, right? Maybe you can lower and raise the iterations so it gives you a different result. But at the end of the day, if you want to do, okay, so if you want to do, let me just rotate this and go do this like right there. Actually, this is supposed to be like that. And go down like this. Let me close holes. Control W. Again, topology doesn't really matter over here. So let's try another one. In this case, I'm gonna do some more branches. And now if I do the masking over here and then over there, I do this like that. Or maybe I don't want to do this. I want to do it over here. Something like that. I don't want this. Sharpen the mask. Slime bridge. There we go. Well, maybe some more maybe I'm gonna max out this tension. And you can see the effect is kind of what we want for like spider webs, right? It's kind of fitting because Spider-Man just released, so we're kind of doing some spider webs over here. This is cool. So now what I want again is to split this up. So I'm gonna split hidden, subtool, split hidden, and I wanna maybe go and do something like this. Another thing we can do, instead of using the gravity, you can actually use the brushes, right? The cloth brushes. So I want to close holes for now, first of all. So close holes, and there's the holes. And now I want to mask these sections, invert this, blur it out. Whoops. Blur it out a little bit. Not that much though, just a little bit. And we can push this out like that. and invert this. And now what we can do is we can use our transpose cloth. Transpose, where's the transpose cloth? There it is. Oops, transpose cloth. This is basically going to simulate my dynamics. So what you can do is, instead of doing it on mask now, you want to do it on brushed. And if I just run the simulation like that, you can see what's going on. It has some tension over there. So it's just faster to get the results you want, right? So just push it down, and it's going to run that simulation. It's going to inflate as well. And there we go. And now we have some spider webs. Okay? And if you rotate it, it's still running the simulation. It's doing the gravity thing. So if we raise this firmness up a little bit and then just push it down, you can see what's going to happen. It's going to push up again, like doing gravity. And even this effect that is happening right here, it's because of the inflate. If I turn off inflate and just push it down like so, it's going to give you a little cleaner result. It's still a little weird and webby, but if I just smooth it out a little bit, and maybe I want to do inflate and just inflate this, but maybe less intensity. Just inflate this and smooth it out. Yeah, but this is the basic workflow for some very quick cobwebs. If you're using this for games, again, this could be baked, right? You could just have a plane replace this. So you could have something like this, for example, and then just replace this with like a cube and manage to get the cube in. Let me split this up. Split this up into a different subtool. And now you have this with your cobwebs over there. So now just try to match this. Oh wow, I have the transpose. Yeah. So regular transpose again. Just try to match this to your cobwebs. Something like that, right? And actually I don't want any divisions. I just want to match this kind of like that. And now if I want, let me just go Z modeler and just do polygroup, polyloop. And I want to delete now polygroup island. And now you have two planes that match perfectly. And these could be baked. You could bake this. And you can actually bake on the top as well if you want. But I mean, it's up to you, right? So you can bake these as a sort of like masked textures, you know. Have this bake as a poly paint. You can add poly paint to this. So if I just go over here, color, and go full red, 0 on the others, just fill object. And now this red is going to be baked into poly paint, basically, which you can then use in Substance to get, whoops, oh, it's not, it didn't, Jesus. Yeah, so if you bake this into your poly paint, there we go. It's not working for some reason. Oh, it's applying on the mask. It's masked. Doesn't matter. If you bake poly paint, then you bake that into a color ID in Substance and then export that bake, right, as its own mask. In Unreal or Unity or whatever you use, you can use that as sort of like the mask for this texture. So you have like an alpha, a single polygon with your cobweb, right? But yeah, so this is basically my workflow for the cobwebs. If you turn off this transparency thing, now you add multiple on top, you get some like weird gooey cobwebs. This is usually good go up there, but you could still come over here and just tweak the simulation as you want. Maybe you have this like that. You can see this is not perfect at all. But yeah, this is how I use SlimeBridge for like cobwebs and spider webs, right? Hey, Marcia, Beto, Luigi, Riggs. How you guys doing? So I hope this was useful. I was supposed to show this last Monday on demystifying post production, but I didn't have the time because I did the entire like ZBrush to substance workflow. That was a kind of a time lapse run on this. So I'm gonna now move on to our little time machine here from Dragon Ball. So a couple of things. This is basically using IMMs and booleans, live booleans to create these panels over here, create these over there, and it's still a work in progress. I'm still trying to figure out how pistons would work on this scenario. So I'm trying to get some pistons over there, then some panels over there. And the last bit of detail that we're going to do is actually do some panel lines, and that's going to help make this come to life. But in the interior, the chair is actually just sculpted in and then ZRemeshed, and then you'd use something like panel loops to get a very low poly. This is still very low poly. Everything you see here is super low poly. I think the joysticks are the ones that have a little bit more geometry. Yeah, like 2 millions. And it has like subdivision levels. This is still low poly. This screen, as you can see, it's all dynamic subdivision. And I try to keep it super low poly until like the end of like the modeling stage. When I want to start adding panel lines, that's usually when I apply the dynamic subdivisions or apply the booleans, because you don't want to go too crazy with details, especially for hard surface early on. You want to keep the shapes as simple as possible, and you can also get some very clean edges just by using this dynamic subdivision workflow. So yeah, we're gonna try to break down how I did this chair over here today, and then the joystick as well was also a very sculptural kind of approach. So yeah. So now going into this demo tool that I got here for you guys. Let me just turn off the terrain because you don't need the rocks or the terrain. There we go. How did I do the chair? Right, so the chair, I'm basically gonna duplicate this and split this up. Again, you know my workflow. I almost never use the insert thing unless it's like Z-spheres and stuff. So I'm gonna start with maybe I'm gonna start with a cube, right? And I'm gonna split this. So splitting the unmasked points, going over here, and I'm going to try to match this shape as much as I can before I start sculpting, but it doesn't need to be perfect. So this cube right over here, let me turn off live booleans for now, we don't need them. We're going to crease these, and I'm going to crease to a very low point, and I'm going to start just matching the shape, the basic shape of this rest for the chair, right? I want to the height, it's not that important right now, but it is kind of something to take into account. Let me just add some edge loops over here. Let's use this keep poly group, and I want to add maybe something like that. Maybe I want just one of these, and I want to uncrease and now crease with a tolerance. So you have like the basic shape, right? So now you want to start sculpting, all right? This is basically, before we start sculpting actually, I want to model this, but without having to rely on just modeling the polygons, right? So I want to maybe raise these like that, and I want to push this like that. Very basic, don't need to go crazy, just have this kind of shape over here. And now I can go to my points actually, because this is so low poly, I can just push this down. So very basic kind of shape for a rest. You could do this for the entire thing, you could just do the entire thing like this, But to keep the topology clean, because this is still just a cube topology, if we want to have nice like edge loops over here, we're gonna sculpt this, okay? So now I'm gonna apply this and delete lower, because I don't care about topology right now. Again, this is the beauty of using a workflow like this, is that we can actually just start sculpting right away. But before I do that, I'm gonna do the rest, the headrest, right, on this shape over here. So I'm gonna again duplicate this, split this. Again, this is subtool, split, unmasked. Subtool, split, split, unmasked. And I'm gonna create a new visibility set just with the chair pieces, right? So I want this and this. And on this one, I'm gonna change to a sphere. Okay? So this sphere now, and just do the same thing. Let me apply this dynamic thing and delete lower. For this sphere, what we want is we want to mask the shape, sort of, the shape that we're gonna get in our, I don't want the poles to be there. I just want to mask this shape right over here. So one of the things I use for this scenario is I want to do an extender. I just extend this out like that, right? And extend this out like that. Okay? Maybe extend this too. Something like this. Okay? So if we want a circle shape for the headrest on the side, I'm going to use a mask for that. And I'm going to dynamesh this real quick. Is it going to crash? Oh no, please don't tell me it's going to crash. If it's going to crash, it's fine. We only started right now, so. Is it? Maybe it is. Maybe it is going to crash. If it goes white, it's a good sign. Okay. Means it's doing something. Maybe it won't. Yeah, so that was a demo. So I wanted to do some spider webs in between the skulls and for the demystifying post-production scene. But I couldn't go through that process on last Monday's stream. So I just went and did a demo now. That was all. It's fine. If it crashes, like actually crashes, I just open it up again. Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter. I just started, so. There we go. There's a little scene over there. Gonna file. Open up the time machine. See, it's loading up all the dynamic subdivision sets. There we go. Oh, I didn't duplicate that. Doesn't matter. I can duplicate this and just load another tool. There we go. So I have a copy of that tool so I don't ruin anything. And I'm just gonna go over to our cockpit, which is this one, take away the glass, and then just delete everything. Delete all. It's gonna delete the entire cockpit. Right, and this cushion thing as well. I don't need this right now. And I can create a new folder with this, call it cockpit again. Cockpit. There we go. Alright, so let me insert this, or actually, yeah, let me insert just a regular mesh over here, just like a cube. And let me see. I want to change this to a polycube. Yeah, this is fine. I just want a basic shape. Go dynamic. Push this back. I want the ratio to be kind of correct. And I want this creasing to be 1 and smooth subdivision 6. And maybe I don't, yeah. I don't want any on the sides. I want something like this, right? And like this. There we go. So again, I'm just gonna go over and try to do this again. Let me do a crease. And now using our deformer, nope, no, there we go. Maybe I don't want that many, something like that. Push this like that, push this one like that. And now I want to push the actual verts. Whoops. Push the verts back like that. It's a very basic one. You can actually have this one. Push this to the front because we can sculpt that anyway. Right, so now applying this. Deleting lower, and now I'm gonna duplicate this back, split, oh, oops, split on mask points, and we want this visibility set just to include these two. Actually, I want the visibility set 3, which is empty. I want these two, right? This is going to be the headrest again. Let's go get a sphere. And maybe I want less smooth subdivisions. I want to apply this, delete lower, and now I want the poles to be on the top. Scale it down. If I wanted a perfectly round shape for this, I could just go with a sphere. Vedere Almeida, pelo menos não sou o único brasileiro aqui na live. Well, eu não sou brasileiro, sou português, mas é close enough. But yeah, I get that a lot. Sorry, that was a little bit of a Portuguese segment. So let me just push this to the side like that. Push this like that. Actually, do I want this? Yeah, I want this. Yeah. Let's go like that. Maybe, and now Control W. It's a single subtool. Let's see if it works. There we go. Now it's working. So you can drag this resolution thing over here to get the fine resolution that you need. So if I do Dynamesh now, it's gonna keep the same resolution. All right. We can also now do a little bit of a deformer and just push these 2 points like so. So just so it doesn't, but it doesn't really matter because we're still gonna go and use our mask. Go to mask circle, perfect circle actually, which is this. And I want a shape that's kinda like this, right? Doesn't need to be perfect. And then mask pen, and I'm gonna try to match this as much as I can. Doesn't need to be perfect again. So I could do it a perfect rectangular shape, but we're gonna ZRemesh this anyway, so there we go. Again, it's not perfect, but it works. And actually, I want this to be a little flatter, like that, right? So let's do it again. Let's go. Could have done a cylinder as well. So we could do something like this. Go circle. There we go. So we get our little shape over there. Control W to get the poly group, right? And here's what's going to happen. If I turn off light, you can see it has some weirdness over there. And we have two options now. We can either polish by groups, or we can do a smooth group. So we can go to our brushes here in the light box, and there's some smooth brushes over here, and there's a brush called smooth groups. Smooth groups, where is it? There it is. So it's gonna say, hey, press and hold shift key. So if I press and hold shift key, it's gonna smooth that border, which is kind of what I want, right? I want to smooth this as much as I can, because then ZRemesh kind of works better, like so. Or we could just do a polish by groups. So go down here to deformation, and go polish by groups, or polish by features. In this case, they're kind of the same. So let me just open circle, polish by groups. So if I do this, it's gonna polish everything. So it's kind of super polished right now. You can see what's going on. So now what we want is we want to ZRemesh this, so I can extract this over here, and I can get this geometry. So let me delete hidden. And now go up to geometry, ZRemesh, and say keep groups just for the sake of. And the smooth group button, I don't need that because it's already kind of smooth, but I want to smooth it a little bit. I always do like a 10 adaptive size, then smooth group 0.1 in the beginning. And then as I go down in topology, in the poly count, I turn off smooth groups and adaptive size, basically. So ZRemesh. See what this does. Oh, also I want symmetry in this case. So I want local symmetry, turn off dynamic. And now if I do ZRemesh, there you go. Let me just scale this up like so. So yeah, this is too curved. That's why I wanted to do with the extract thing. Doesn't matter, you guys get the point. So now half symmetry on, ZRemesh. We can do symmetry on the Y as well, and it's going to be symmetrical from top to bottom. So if we do this, you can see we're getting symmetrical top to bottom and symmetrical from side to side. So now let's just keep reducing this, and now we can stop smoothing. And the adaptive size now down to 0. So if you do this now, until you get a very low poly mesh, right? Well, it's not super low poly, but it is low poly. And now what we can do, we have two options now, right? We either do dynamic thickness. So we can go to dynamic subdivision and add thickness to this. We can turn off post subdivision, and we get this cushion that's non-destructible. It's still fairly low poly, and then we can add all sorts of details right here. This is an option, okay, and you can then kind of tweak this to your liking. And it's still dynamic thickness, so you can see the thickness is still the same even though I'm scaling, because technically I'm scaling just a one-sided mesh, right? So we can have something like this for our head cushion, or we can use panel loops. So in this case, we can go to edge loop, panel loop, and we get something like this, right? With some edging over there. So if I add to the thickness and do panel loops, maybe more, maybe I want like 0.1, we get something like that, and it's all clean topology. There's no stretching. We can tweak the profile, so you could have, let's say, maybe I want this to be like that, and if we do panel loops, now we get a little taper down over there, and we can lower our, well, we can have more bevel, have a lot more bevel, or we can have less of a bevel, so it's a little bit less destructive, right? We can reduce the thickness just a little bit, 0.08 maybe. And we want to reset this and maybe add some points over here. We can have like this weird curvature. That's not usually how I work. So we can have something like this, for example. Panel loops. And there we go. Clean topology all around. And now we can crease PG and have a nice edging over there. So another thing I want is less loops. So I want maybe 3 loops, panel loops. So now we get that middle section over there. Maybe we want like 25 bevel. You can keep tweaking this to your liking to get a nice kind of headrest over there. So let's say this is kind of what we want. We don't want any polish actually. So you can have like a nice hard surface all around shape. And if now after our panel loops, if we add the dynamic subdivision without thickness and crease PG, you can see what we're getting. We're getting a nice cushioned headrest for this chair, right? And since it's very low poly, it's very easy for me to manipulate this. So I can come over here with my ZModeler brush. I can do inset poly loop and just inset this whole poly loop right here. Then Q mesh this polygroup island, just Q mesh it down. So you have this little lip around. And it's all clean, low poly topology, which means you can actually box model this. So there we go. That's how I did the headrest. And you can still, of course, like do an extender, for example, and just push this up a little bit like that. And then just add some topology, maybe just a single edge loop right over there. And just do something like that. Of course, this is creasing, which I don't want. No creasing. So now you get a smooth transition over there. There's still some creasing over there. So I might just go with my ZModeler, crease edge loop complete, uncrease this. And now we get a nice, well, you have this kind of pinch over there. So I might as well just go insert edge loop, delete that, and get a nice curved and not so circular shape, right? All right, so this is my workflow for creating the headrest. So now for the actual chair, this is where the juice comes, right? This is a more of a hand sculpting kind of approach. So let me just match this to the best of my ability, maybe less, because I still want some tolerance over there. Or I can actually just then use the clip. So I want to hand sculpt this, so let me just clip this. Control Shift with a clip curve and then press and hold spacebar. Turn on polygroup. And with symmetry on, if I do this now, it's going to give me a polygroup over there. So again, let's just sculpt this on the fly right here. I want this to be sort of like that. We could use dynamics as well. We can just go here with our cloth brushes, like cloth move or cloth inflate. Where's cloth inflate? Cloth pinch. Cloth ball. There's cloth fold. There was a cloth. Actually, yeah. Let me just push cloth move. You can start moving this, but of course this has too much geometry. So much geometry. So let me just sculpt the basic shape that I want. I want this to be kind of like that. Then I can smooth this out. Doesn't matter how weird it looks, because it's still going to be a low poly workflow at the end. Might as well just do this. Can use the clay brush as well. So we have this kind of a scenario over here. Some clay buildup with our alpha 6. If you guys know me from my figure drawing / figure sculpting days, this was a must. I'm a clay build-up kind of guy. All right, so another thing we want is we want to use move infinite depth with some accu curved on. So I would just go curve, accu curve, just go really big. Just push this ever so slightly. Pushing this like that, just to get that nice shape over there. Right. And now I want to do the clay buildup again. So we're getting just the basic shape that we want. In this case, I want this to be kind of filled up over here. And I want this to be not that harsh. So I want this shape. And this harsh edge over here, it is going to be useful for us. So I want this to also have some softness on the back. All right. So here's the cool thing. All right. So we have a very basic kind of sculpt over here, right, for our chair. What I usually do now, it's still very low. Well, it's not low, but it is kind of high poly actually for what we want. So let's say you have this and you don't have any poly groups. You want to ZRemesh this, but you don't want to get like weird details, and you want a specific poly group for this area right here, and you have a low poly, high poly mesh. You want to go to Z plugin. There's this little thing called polygroup it. And if you open up polygroup it, I'm not sure if it's going to lag, because this is one of the few things that kind of uses your GPU in ZBrush. Everything else is CPU based, but in this case, this is GPU. So I want to have a node over here, and I could just say, all right, I want a polygroup there. I want some symmetry, and I want an edge loop right there. So I might want another node like this. Maybe I don't want the same color, and I want to go like that, and I want another node like this. Can actually then just slice the middle section. Just want to go something like that, right? Doesn't need to be perfect. Again, actually, I don't want any of this. I want this entire thing to have a polygroup like that. And if we press OK, now we have polygroups with a high poly mesh, right? So polygroup it is sort of for that. And now we want to go to ZRemesh. Not remesh, I'm sorry. I want a geometry, ZRemesh, and do keep groups. I want to smooth the groups a little bit, so I'm going to do 0.25. Same adaptive size down to like 20, because it is a fairly high poly mesh. I'm going to do ZRemesh now, and again we have symmetry from side to side, which is what we want. We don't want symmetry on the y-axis, not anymore though. And you can see what's going on over there. I want to basically have this be its own polygroup. I want to polish this as well now, like polish the groups just a tad, so I can get that nice edging over there. You can see what's going on over there. And now I want to ZRemesh again. Now I'm gonna start lowering this. It's going to start lowering, 85,000. Yes, so let's lower this up even more. If you have like a super complex shape that you want to explore using sculpting, you can do that. So it's just a workflow and a technique to actually create your organic-ish kind of chairs. So let's go half again, And I want this, actually this is looking pretty weird right now, so I might as well just slice this. Slice curve. While hiding that topology over there. So now if I do same, ZRemesh, keep groups. Okay, I see what's going on. It sliced that part over there as well. So I'm gonna do this, auto groups. And now I can try to separate these two. ZRemesh. There we go. Let me try not smoothing and the adaptive size down to 0. There we go. Sometimes just press it a couple of times and it does give you a different result. And I'm gonna do move right now. Let me just try to move this up like so. Give it a little help. Just help out your ZRemesh to give you a better result. Just some smoothing over here. And let's go half again. 0 smooth, 0 adaptive size. We have 3,000 polys. We have 1,000 points actually. And I think this kind of works already. So now if we press D for dynamic subdivision, we get this. Right? So now we can actually smooth this section in the middle. Smooth brush really dulled down a little bit. Now we get something like that. Right? And now here's the cool thing. We want this, right? But now we want these side panels. So if we select this and go to edge loop, panel loops, you can see it's giving you this weird kind of paneling, right? So what we want right now, we want to have this, and we don't want double. We want this to have some loops. So now if we do some loops, this is your result. Let's get some more thickness over here. Get this. I don't want any polish. And there we go. Some nice hard surface slash organic chair effect. And this could have worked with any shape that you want to get your chair going, right? Same idea for the bottom. So again, you could sculpt the entire thing and then just use this workflow of going low poly and using your panel loops to get the result that you want. So there we go. Now we have our little panel loop here. And the cool thing, again, since we have a low poly workflow, I can go over here and do inset poly loop. Just inset this a little bit. Oops. Inset this like that. And then Q mesh this. Q mesh this down. Whoops. Now we have that little trim that we also have on the top, right? So it matches. Settings are the same because I duplicated this. So same settings, just the loops maybe you change a little bit. The bevel profile you can change, like reduce the polish. Does it wrap around the sphere though? What do you mean by wrapping around the sphere? You mean the panel loops? Panel loops work with everything. Anything, even a character. You could just do panels out of a character to create like some mech or something. So this was basically how I did the chair thing. And then I just used a couple of IMMs here on the back to create some cool effects. So just go to my model kit, not my model kit. It's actually Joseph Drust's model kit. And I don't know, maybe I want something like this, and I want this right there on the middle poly group. This is the cool thing about being in low poly workflow. So I can just do this, and then I can go and do extender. Extend this down like that. And I want some more geometry over there. I want at least the same amount of geometry that we had over there. And maybe I want to extend this like that as well. I can push this blue sphere like that. And I don't want any resolution over there. So get this, right? And now I can use my bend deformer, bend curve. You guys know I love me some bend curve. And just push this like that. And push this like that. So it's a little curved. Just a slightly curved. And I want to like fix this pinching over here. So I might want to do inset flat island. Inset it. Actually, I want to do standard, actually legacy. And yeah, and there we go. So inset this. Now I get a nice crispy. Oh, we have a little bit of an issue there with this. We can fix this, or we can ignore it for now because it's just a demo. But yeah, it kind of works. So this is how I created that section. And I can split this and have it be its own kind of mesh, and then we can tie this up, because at the end I'm planning on creating some nice hard surfacing detail on the back of this chair, and then connecting this to that bottom section. No, unfortunately, I do work in ZBrush a lot. ZBrush is my main software, that's for sure, my main modeling software. But doing real-time environments, you do have to bring this to something else, like to either, well, firstly to Substance, and then create your I create my trim sheets in tileable textures all in ZBrush. Then I have to texture them somewhere on a tileable kind of workflow. So I either use Quixel Mixer, Substance Designer, sometimes a mix of both Designer, Mixer, and Painter. And then in order to create the actual final game-ready environment, I go Unreal Engine 5. That's my main output, let's say. But the modeling, definitely, I do everything I can in ZBrush. Sometimes you can't do everything in ZBrush, especially for real time. Like, for example, if you have like a huge like landscape scenario, you usually do that in like Gaia or World Machine, or GeoGen. Actually is a nice upcoming software that's just coming up and looks really promising. So I haven't used ZBrush in almost a year now. I've been doing everything in Blender with add-ons. It's a bit faster for me. Well, it kind of depends on what you're used to. I mean, but ZBrush has a lot of like untapped potential that a lot of people just don't know that it's there. There's a whole bunch of features in ZBrush that you can't find anywhere. They're kind of unique to ZBrush and make your workflow that much faster, especially if you're going for real time. And then in real time, yeah, but like ZBrush 10 years ago was nothing like it is now. There's so many things now in ZBrush that wasn't there 10 years ago. I remember looking and seeing ZBrush 10 years ago and feeling so intimidated by it. And it was so different than what I used to do in Maya. I am a Maya self-taught user for over 12 years. So I've been a self-taught artist in Maya for 12 years, and then I got training at Escape Studios last year. That was the only official training I got from Maya. But since I learned about a lot of these cool things in ZBrush, like there's so many things, man. I can't even put into words, especially for games in real time. There's so many things here that speed up pipelines and workflows that most people don't even realize it's there. Like, I showcased a small aspect of my workflow when I'm using it for iteration in games last Monday, using Decimation Master with Keep UVs just to get out a lot of things. Another thing is that you have to watch the ZBrush Summit 2020. I think it was 2020, 2021. I'm sorry, 2021. There's a presentation there that's from id Software for Doom. Let me see if I can put that on chat. So, id Software ZBrush. There it is. Doom Eternal. It was actually last year. ZBrush Summit 2021. There it is. 2021. So it was 2 years ago. We put this on chat. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite presentations. So at the time I was studying at Escape and I was doing an environment, and I realized, okay, so if these guys can do everything in ZBrush, including the low poly and the UVs and all of that, then I can do it too. So if you look at my Diablo environment, it was mostly done in ZBrush. I would say 99% of that was ZBrush, and the rest was Unreal, like materials and all of that was all Unreal. But the tileable textures, the models, the baking, even the emissive maps that go for the glowing patterns on the door, all of that was ZBrush. So that's another thing. Yes, Decimation Master will keep UVs, it's cool. But again, it's more effective for organic shapes, right? Like rocks and stuff like that, or a very quick iteration pass that you want to do. But if you're going hard surface, like super clean like this, you don't want to go Decimation Master, because Decimation Master, your final low poly is going to get some weird normal artifacts, unless you spend a lot of time cleaning up your normals, which is, it's counterproductive, right? So what you want is you want to have this kind of workflow where you can use ZRemesh to your advantage. There's a lot of ZRemesh can be very, very responsive. A lot of people think ZRemeshes give you wonky results and it's cool for some quick stuff. But I use ZRemesh all the time and I get clean topology like this one. And I can lower it even more and get like game ready like this, right? And you have polygroups, so you can actually do a first pass for your UVs, right? And now there's even UV cutting and sewing. So there's also like seam cutting. You can cut your seams manually in ZBrush now. So not even that. I used to use Maya for that before. So I'm not even using Maya for that, which is something I used to do. So yeah, there's a lot of things in ZBrush. There's Jesus. If you just watch Paul Gabriel's presentations on either the Celtic Helmet or the TIE Fighter series, there's 2 of them, or even the ZBrush Summit presentations, the last section, the last talk on each ZBrush Summit, all of those are gold. Just watch that and you'll get blown away. So for example, this Majin Buu was game ready at a point. This was game ready, and this was done in like 3 days. That's it. That's how powerful ZBrush is for production, I mean. So I've been a little bit of a evangelist, let's say, of using ZBrush for production, because again, I come from a traditional Maya box modeling kind of background, right? So I used to be, and I'm a very technically minded person. I'm an environment technical artist, technically. So I like stuff that kind of fits nicely like a glove in the pipeline, and it works nicely, and it gives you the best performance in game, and it gives you the best results, and it works good for like big teams to kind of iterate fast between the team members, right? So that's kind of what tickles my brain. And ZBrush for me, it's not just an artsy fartsy sculpting program. It's actually a very production ready piece of software. So yeah, you can use whatever you want. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to personal preference, right? I just try to show that, because I know a lot of people, even in the industry, don't know a lot of stuff that ZBrush can do for them and speeds up their workflow so much, like you wouldn't believe, right? All right, so I have this now. Let me just go and do, because we're almost ending the stream and I'm not even close to finish. So let me just go over here to my masking. Let me split this, split on mask points, and now we have this. And I just want to use this for, whoops. Let me just go and select this section over here. I just want to get this done real quick. Delete hidden, and let's just do a quick close holes. And I'm gonna go a little crazy now, so bear with me. Apply, delete lower, And I want to use my knife curve brush. I want to do something like that, but I want it to be fairly flat. So I want to do something like this, maybe flatten it. We can do something. There we go. Now we want to go the same workflow as before. So we want to go here and do ZRemesh, same, keep groups, adaptive size 10, smooth groups 0.1, ZRemesh. Yeah, I'm giving a demo on how I modeled the chair for the time machine. The chair, and I'm gonna do a little bit of that paneling, interior paneling. And we can keep going. Whoa, what the heck is that? Okay, so these two need to be kind of together. Whoops. These two. There we go. Now let's do ZRemesh. So yeah, modeling the interior of the time machine. Yeah, I can do this low poly too. There's just multiple ways to do it. I was just showing because a lot of people just go, oh, it's better for organic. Once you have something organic, to get a low resolution mesh, people think it's a pain in the ass. It isn't. Just do this. And it's done. This is low poly. Everything's low poly. It's game ready. That's the thing. We're going to do this in ZBrush. We're going to render this in ZBrush. But I want to have you guys keep in mind that if I wanted to bring this over to like Unreal, I could still do that. I mean, I can do this pretty fast in Maya too. You know what I mean? Like I have 12 years of experience in Maya. I can do this pretty fast in Maya. The thing is, I'm modeling organic and hard surface at the same time, and I don't want to keep switching. You know what I mean? So it's like you have a lot of other features in organic stuff that I know Blender doesn't have. And I know there's some features that Blender has that ZBrush doesn't. But my point is that you want to have your pipeline be faster, not just that particular model. If you're just modeling a single thing, that's fine. Do whatever you want. But when you have a big pipeline with substance involved, with a lot of like Unreal stuff involved, and you have multiple different types of meshes, I usually just model everything in ZBrush. And then I get the low poly, bring that over to Maya just for material IDs, maybe some texel density work, because you have a set texel density usually. You can use whatever you want, even Cinema 4D, Maya, Blender, Modo. I've seen Modo work, a lot of Modo tutorials, but Modo has fallen out of fashion for some reason lately. But Modo is a nice software. Where's my smooth brush? I can't find the smooth. Oh, there it is. Okay. So yeah, so whatever works, it's fine. I mean, you just use it. There's no need to. I know that even in production, there are people in the same team that use different software. You know what I mean? Unless you go to a big AAA production, they have their own kind of tools, you know, that are made custom tools, right, for like Maya and stuff like that. Then you kind of have to know Maya, you know. Usually it's Maya, right? Sorry to burst your bubble, but it's like if you want to go AAA, most of the people use Maya. There's some studios now that are using Blender, particularly because of the geometry nodes thing that I know of, but mostly they do have like a Maya workflow set up because it's like decades of Maya development. They're not gonna sacrifice that for the sake of just a single artist, right? So I'm gonna go over here and go clay build up. This is fairly low. I just want to keep this something like this. So here's the cool thing. Let me just do a little bit of an organic feel to this. Let me just go inflate. Like so. Let's up the resolution a little bit. Smooth it out. So you have something like this. So you have this kind of design going from in out, basically, right? Smooth it out again. And see how this works. Well, this is a problem over here. But again, we want this final model to be kind of low poly, so this is a little bit high, so polygroup it. It has polygroups, but it's just, they're not that crispy. So I'm gonna go like that. Whoops, something like that. Then apply X symmetry. Maybe not this one. This symmetry is not working. It's not symmetrical on the sculpt, probably. Let's do extend. And we get this. Doesn't really matter those middle polygroups, so we can just tap this, invert this, Control W. Now let's polish by groups. There we go. Done. And now we want to ZRemesh this again. So same, keep groups, ZRemesh. There we go. Half, ZRemesh, ZRemesh, ZRemesh. And we have our little cushion in the shape, exact shape that we want. And it isn't perfectly straight. That's also another thing which I can change right over here. So let me just taper this. I don't want to taper on the Z. I don't want to taper on the Y. I just want to taper that. So I want to taper it like that. And the exponent could be something like this. Maybe not that much, maybe just a little bit. Taper in. There we go. Something like this, right? And now, let's ZRemesh again. We have our little old dandy edge loop, panel loops. And there we go. Clean as a whistle. And now ZModeler to do that little lip over there. Just found this playlist. It's just so cool. It's copyright free as well, so I'm assuming you guys can listen, can hear the music. I'm not sure how loud it is. You guys haven't given me feedback on that. So I'm gonna push this down a little bit. And we get that same trim that we had over there. Chair. Done. Chair. We have the chair. So, okay, so maybe this is too small. Maybe I want this to be, let's do deformer. Something like that. I want symmetry on both sides, so I can only move this one. Maybe there's something like that. I want this one. Whoops. Push this down. And we can rotate this like so. There we go. Something like that, right? Well, my final chair isn't exactly like this. I was just demoing the same kind of workflow for that. All right, so going back to our, whoa, this is big. So this is too big, the entire thing, right? So let me just do transpose set and scale it down a little bit. Okay, I don't want to, whoops, I don't want this selected. Whoa. And I want this back like so. And I want this maybe going down. Yeah, so now we have a chair, right? So for the paneling, and we're almost out of time, guys. I mean, I can go maybe half an hour more, like 45 minutes. But again, and for the paneling, it's basically just Z-modeler work. So it's basically just going over here, doing my cylinder 3D. Actually, in this case, I didn't use cylinder 3D. I used polycylinder because I don't want that pole in the middle. All right. So basically, in this case scenario, I want something like that, and I want something like that. Maybe like I want a polygon, a strip, maybe an edge loop in the middle. So I want something like this, right? I want something in the middle. Okay. And now I want this split as its own subtool. And there we go. 35 degrees if we want, but in this case I just want a paneling, like a very straightforward panel. So I'm gonna do the same thing I did for those tombstones. Going like that, adding some edge loops like this. And yeah, I think I did a sphere though. Thank you. Hard surface, really crispy. Yeah, I mean, it's still very basic as well. There's not a lot of detailing. That's like for the end. We're still figuring out how this kind of works, you know, in terms of like how the piston will work if it retracts and stuff. It's not that important, but it is. In this case, it isn't, but you never know. So I'm gonna select this auto group and do this, and I want this to be my panel. So I want to taper this. Whoops, I need to delete hidden, and I want to tape. Actually, I don't want to taper. I want it to close holes first. There we go. Actually, let me think. Let me delete these for now. And I want to close holes now. There we go. So now I can go over here if I want perfect quads. Delete these edges. There we go. Now I want to insert multiple edge loops, keep polygroup. And I want this to be fairly squared, like that, right? So it has a little bit of pinching there. That's because I didn't did an inset there yet, right? This geometry is kind of wonky, but doesn't really matter because it's gonna be booleaned at the end of the day, and then ZRemeshed. So I want this to be maybe like so, and I want this to be, let's do transparency, taper this, and I want this to be something like that, right? Or I could use a bend curve, because I love me some bend curve. Whoops, not this one, that one. There we go. So maybe I want something that goes like this. and then I can just scale it. Push this down like so, because then I'm gonna rotate this like 35. And then the paneling goes, it's basically an extrusion, like there. I didn't use this workflow for the other one. I did basically a sphere and then just extruded this. So I'm gonna go and do maybe polygroup flat island. Polygroup this. I don't want this section over here. And I want this one. And I don't want this section over here. And this could be just its flat island. Same thing here. And this is fine. Now I want to inset polygroup all. Still some pinching over there. That's because of that little weirdness. Let me see. If I can do this standard. Let's see if standard works. Yeah, standard works way better. There we go. It's kind of crispy. It does the same thing the other side. So you have something like this, and now I can Q mesh. Let's do symmetrical polygroup island. Oh, Jesus. Not the Y symmetry. Just the X. So we have like these panels over here. I want something like that, and then this, and then this. There we go. I actually might want these strips of polygons. Not this one. So polygroup all, you know, I don't need symmetry. Just push this back and then tap, tap, whoops. There we go. So we don't need that extra strip over there. And now I want to crease. So we get something like that. This isn't perfect. This one. It doesn't matter. We can tweak that on the fly. So we have this kind of paneling over here. Well, that area right there shouldn't be like this, but that's because I'm not using a sphere. I'm using a cylinder. No, I didn't, but I should, because I want to get into Houdini. I have a friend of mine, I think he's on our server. He's like Houdini expert, you know, but he's been into nodes and Maya, Bifrost and stuff like that since forever. You can check out his website, actually. It's CG Side. He's like an incredible artist. You have no clue. He's a procedural technical artist, basically, even though he might not admit it, but he is a technical artist. And if you want to know some cool tips and tricks, Jesus, wow, this dyslexia just went nuts on me for a second. So if you want to have some cool tips and tricks for Houdini, Maya, Bifrost, stuff like that, that's like procedural, you can just check him out. He's great. Actually, now I didn't want this. There we go. I want this done differently. I want this entire island to have an inset. So I just want to paint this so I don't have to do symmetry, because I technically can't do symmetry because it's non-symmetrical. It's Z-axis. So I can just go over here, paint this, and now let's do an inset polygroup all, and let's run it. Something like this. Cool. So uncrease all, crease, and we need to crease this one. So let's go crease edge loop partial, There we go. Same thing goes. Oh, it's done. Okay. Cool. Looking much better. So, another thing that I did was that little lip on the bottom right there. So I did this entire thing. If you check out my other, you can see this lip over there. And you can see in this scenario, whoa. In this scenario, you can see it was like a sphere, right? It's a sphere, has a pole over there, and there's like some extrusions going on, and none of that will be seen. So, and eventually it's gonna be bullioned together with the chassis. These cushions are still weird over there, but I might just delete that. Just have a couple after I do the array mesh, because this is array mesh, right? So array mesh with some rotation. This is all array mesh as well. This is array mesh, and this is like the symmetry is array mesh. But yeah, so the other, let's see if we can do this in a different way. In this case, I want to do this lip. You can have some panels extruded over there just to have some extra places to put buttons on and stuff. So I'm gonna paint this as a separate polygroup, not this one. And now I wanna QMesh polygroup island, and I wanna do this in low poly mode. I can do something like this, and then I can delete this edge over there. No, I'm gonna have to stitch, whoops, a daisy. Stitch this, stitch that, stitch this to that. Same thing goes, I should have done symmetry. Whatever. Go over here. And now if we crease, actually let me crease manually, because you never know. So I'm gonna crease edge loop partial, crease this one, and crease this one. Whoops. There we go. And this one as well. Yeah, now I need another inset over here. So I'm gonna do inset polygroup island. Just this one. Whoops. Inset polygroup island. Like that. So now there's no uncrease all. I'm gonna crease based on angle. And this crease edge loop partial over here and over here. And this one is creased already. It's just not that harsh. Maybe I want to raise my crease level just a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. Yes. Maybe I want to crease just this edge to get some nice pinching over there. Maybe not. I don't know. Not really sure. But yeah, so this is how I get the paneling, right? And now we can even do the screws, etc. on our geometry as nano mesh. Oh, you mean the Houdini stuff with my friend's Houdini channel? Sure, I can search it out. Let me see. CG side. It's not just Houdini. There's Houdini and Maya. It's like anything that's like procedural node stuff. It's there. So he has a Gumroad Patreon, a YouTube channel. That's it. It's the YouTube channel. I've known this guy for years and years, and it's a very, very good set of tutorials he has there. And of course, like these are all like time lapse and stuff because he has his own, you know, tutorial main site, etc. But I'm sure if you watch a couple of those tutorials, it's gonna be great. All right, and I'm pretty sure he's on our server. So, and if you're not, I need to do shameless plug. You know, like I just plugged in my friend, so I might as well just plug in my own server. You know, shamelessly. So here's our server. If you want to join, post work in progress, post questions that you want me answered on stream, just go over there to our Discord server, and there it is. Alright, maybe I want this to be, I don't want this to be that much. There we go. This is also too much. That little thing over there. Yeah, in this case, I might just do QMesh, single poly. Single poly. Ah, come on. There we go. I can delete this. Not crease, insert, delete this edge loop. And now I can just yeah, so now we can crease this. Crease edge, crease edge, crease edge. Much better. There we go. And if we want, we can insert single edge loop just to sharpen this up a little bit. And this as well. There we go. So now we have an extra panel over there. I might not really like this thing. Just flatten this out. Can have something like this. This is actually cooler than the one I had before. Let me just flatten this as well. Just, whoops. I'm using the circle, which is not ideal. Just do mask pen or lasso. There we go. This one too. And now let's go and flatten. So now we can delete this edge loop and insert another. There it is. So I have a nice little panel over there. Yeah, so the other thing is the joystick thing, right? So it's the same workflow as the chair. You basically just do, I did for the actual metal tubing, it was basically Z-spheres, and then you have clean topology, so you can do some weird like edge looping and stuff like that. But for the actual joystick, I actually just brought in, let me just duplicate this and split this. You know my workflow by now. Split unmasked. And now this one, I'm gonna use an IMM primitives, and I'm gonna replace this with a capsule. So now we have two capsules over here, and the capsule has nice top, well actually it doesn't, I thought it did. I think it's these two, these like polyspheres. There we go. And now I can just do the extender thing. I actually don't need that one. Can delete hidden because I'm going to use array mesh for the symmetry. Extender. Whoa, there we go. I can just scale it up. And again, we're gonna sculpt this, so not really relevant how much of a... So here's the cool thing now. You can just go in and do some actual sculpting. And I'm gonna dynamesh this. Actually, let me dynamesh this. Let me apply, delete lower, and now I'm gonna dynamesh this. So now what I want to do is I want to go over and do some bend curve. Maybe I want something like that. And I want this deformer. I want this to be in. I actually want some topology over there, like so. And I want these to be a little fatter. And I want this on the top to be a little fat. So you have like this kind of joystick shape. Same thing goes over here. Let's say you have something like this, right? And now you want to sculpt this. So I want to go up the resolution. So now what I want to do is I want to sculpt that section where your hand would go. Again, remember the workflow. We're gonna do... come on. I forgot the symmetry. Doesn't matter. Just mirror and weld. Mirror, mirror and weld, mirror again. There we go. Try to do this kind of clean like. So you can actually use the move brush as well. You could use some AQ curve, but not necessary for this scenario. So if we want to do some crazy stuff on the side as well, we can. We can just do this, push this like that. So I'm not really even concerned about what that might entail, like so. In terms of like topology, right? Because we don't care about that. So you could have something like this, and then redynamesh, have some trim dynamic to kind of flatten this out. I actually prefer in this scenario to do an H polish. I prefer the H polish brush for this kind of pre-hard surface kind of workflow, right? Same thing goes over here. And same thing goes over here. Again, this could be its own separate subtool anyway. I just want to block it out real quick. There we go. Actually, no, I want this to be fairly organic. So we have something like this. This is fairly organic. That one's hard surface. And again, move brush. Let me see if it has AQ curved on. Nope. There we go. So we want to make this a little fatter and smooth it out. So you can actually go and move again, try to push this, push this down like that. Again, trying to think about ergonomics a little bit, not that much though. So, because, you know, not joystick designer, but it is fairly important to think, all right, your hand goes like this needs to be curved out, so push this out a little bit and then just smooth it so we get a fairly clean shape. Again, this is still Dynamesh, right? So it's only going to get really, really clean once you do your ZRemesh with your groups, etc. So now what we want is actually H-polish, and I want to do like a flatter section over there. This is going to be where I'll put the buttons, something like this, right? Then maybe something like that. Get some nice design shapes over here. This is still too low poly, but I don't care because this is going to be ZRemeshed anyway. But it could raise this resolution a little bit and then just go over and clean it up. This is also another workflow, so starting a hard surface with sculpting using your standard whatever brushes. Same thing goes here. Just clean it up a little bit and then clean it as much as you can because we're going to use polygroup it. It is very important that we get the nice edge, harsh edge transitions, especially here. So we could even go over with a pinch brush, lazy mouse, and I can just go over and do this and then just press 1 to repeat till we get a nice super clean edge. Same thing goes over here, super clean edge. Same thing goes over here, super clean, super clean. Smooth this out, and we can even do some let's do flatten. All right. Right, this is good enough for now. Here we might need something as well, like some H polishing going on over there. Something like that. So you get a nice little shape for a joystick. Then we could have like all sorts of buttons poking out, like on the side. It could just go, I don't know how this would work in terms of ergonomics again, but it is fine for now. So now what I wanted to show was this in action with a little bit of a more complex shape. So we have our little seed over there, this one over here, which we can just go like that. We can have 2 of them, and then we can just do same thing over here, same thing over there. Then we're gonna polish this anyway. So same thing over here. Yeah, we're doing this with the tablet. This is a separate window, and when you do this on your tablet screen, it might go a little nuts. So it's resolution dependent. It's a GPU thing. Same thing goes over here. Maybe less of a tolerance. So same thing goes over here, then over here. You can split this in panels per se. You have something. There we go. And now we have another one over here, maybe smaller. And over here, and over here, smaller. Something like that. If we do extend, we get these nice polishing panels over there. And I don't want this to be super duper complex again, because we're still gonna do some polishing. Whoops. So yeah, we're gonna do this. Yeah, this is not perfectly symmetrical. Doesn't matter, I can do this. Yeah, we would have something like this. No extend, extend. Yeah, this extend is giving me a headache. The symmetry didn't work. Yeah, let's go. Right, we could still tweak this on the fly. This is also because I don't get my super sharp edges, right? So something like this. I want this to be its own, or actually I could mirror this, mirror and weld, and now we get these. This would be, you know, very, and this kind of works as well, but in my case I want these two, and then I want to slice them. So again, using the slice curve as well kind of works. I want to do maybe a little bit of a curve to that. Select these two, Control W, their own separate polygroup. Then once we polish this, it's going to be crisp. So maybe I can help it out with some ZModeler, like over here. And I want to do this, and do this. And then we can polish this. Same thing goes over here, actually. Which means we could do a little bit of the slicing. Actually, can go like that. Whoa, that was crazy. Wow, this is going nuts. I have a feeling it's gonna crash, but let me just do a quick polish. Polish by groups. It kind of works. I would have to be, I can mask this off and get this. Huh. There we go. So now we can combine these two. I can actually do the opposite. I can do this, and I want a slice like that. What the heck is going on? I don't have any history stuff. There we go. Come on. I don't know what's going on with my ZBrush today. For some reason. Yeah, let's go with this. Okay. So I'm doing this little transition over here. There we go, and now let's mirror this. Mirror and weld. There we go. So now we have if we polish by groups, you have that section over there that's flat. The rest is kind of not, which is what I want in this case scenario. So now I want to go in and do the ZRemesh thingy. Same. Keep groups, smooth groups to 0.1, adaptive size 10, you know me, and a ZRemesh. I don't know what was that. FDD modifier. Yeah, it's exactly like the FDD modifier, FFD modifier. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I really enjoy you guys saying that you guys just feel like wanting to sculpt after watching me do these small little demos. I mean, I could just spend hours here. I can't today, but I will. At a point, I will spend more time just going over this scene. Just redoing zero. I can do retry actually. Huh. It's been edited or changed since last ZRemeshing, retiring the original. No, I actually don't want to retry. I want to go half, half, half. And now let's do crease PG and crease level of like 2. And maybe these could be the same though. So increase all, crease PG. This could be kind of like the same. Could have a crease over here, so crease edge loop partial. And we have a nice little transition there. Here's another thing. We could go and slide edge loop partial and just slide this. Actually, no. I wanna isolate this. I wanna mask edge loop partial. Mask this creased one. Now I want to go like that. Actually, I can't mask that, but it's fine. There we go. And now I want to slide this one. I just want to slide this one up top. So we get a nice little transition over there. Cool. Alright, so this is like the basic for the joystick. It's kind of looking weird. But I mean, what can I tell you, right? I don't design joysticks for a living. Oh, okay. There's some weirdness going on over here. So ZBS slicing. Slice this over here. And we can do same ZRemesh. I did say same, no adaptive size. That is a weird one. Well, it doesn't matter as long as there's some cool... Okay, so this matters though. Can I delete this? Isn't this gonna be... Can actually just delete this one and go close convex holes. There we go. Much better. Whoops, a daisy. What the heck's going on? Just do auto groups. Done. And this one over here now can be deleted. So delete edge loop partial. Yeah, that's the problem. Oh, I'll just have to stitch this. Jeez. So, mirror and the X. Why is it not perfectly? Oh my god, it's not perfectly symmetrical. So let me do this. And let me just do... Whoa, yeah, I didn't ZRemesh with symmetry on. My bad. There you go. Much better. Increase PG. Mucho, mucho mejor. There you go. Okay, so maybe slide this point. Slide this point. Get a nice transition over there. And then we can also just go over here with our move brush and emphasize these bulges that we kind of lost on our ZRemesh. Weirdness happening over here. Alright, see modeler. Stitch, stitch. Let's do midpoint. Whoops, a daisy. I want to stitch this to this. Not midpoint, sorry, end point. This to this, and now I want midpoint this to this. There we go. We still have a little pinch over there. It's this crease. Uncrease this. And crease edge. Not sure I enjoy that. This is the mirror and weld that kind of did this for us, so. Slide. I mean, I could just do this and flatten. There we go. And now I can move this little point over here. And then just flatten it again. It could go ZRemesh this again with the same, but whatever, you get the point. I need to run. But this is the basic hard surface for the joystick pattern. You can do whatever you want, you know, just play around with your design. And the cool thing is that now I'm just gonna go in and do some quick IMM. Whoops. I'm doing some IMM buttons or whatever. Let's see if I don't know, this circular one kind of looks nice. Let's go like that and tap this. Yeah, and let's set this 90 degrees, scale it down. Let me hide the mask. So something like that. And then on the sides we could have maybe something like this. Why is sometimes my gizmo doesn't follow the IMM perfectly for some reason. And let me just rotate this like that. There we go. And now I want actually I want this on the other side because this doesn't make with your thumb, right? So let me just go back and do a circular one like there. Again, it's giving me some funky results. Push it in. Rotate this. And now maybe, let's see if I can do the same thing I did with the helmet. Not the helmet, the headrest. So you would have something like this. does this work though? Cut the polygon. What do you mean by cutting the polygon? Make an X. There is a way. An X, like an X shaped. You mean slicing? Slicing the polygon? There is a way. There's multiple ways actually. Just let me know if that's what you mean. Do you mean slicing the polygroup in an X shape? It's fairly easy. Like just go, let me just exemplify here on a cylinder. So make polymesh 3D, and I'm gonna dynamesh the heck out of this. So dynamesh. So let's say you wanna slice in an X shape, right? So you want to use the slice curve brush, and then you're gonna have polygroup B radius. So B radius, what it's gonna do is the radius of your brush is gonna do this, right? So if you want to do an X, you can just do this, and you can either mirror and weld now. Mirror and weld. It's not mirror and weld. Oh, it's mirror and welding on the wrong axis. I always do the wrong axis. So Z. Now it's mirror and weld on the Z. Jeez. Yeah, I'm getting tired, guys. So let's do Z, mirror, mirror and weld, and then mirror and weld on the Y as well. Whoops. Mirror, mirror and weld. You get an X, perfect X. Or if you want to do this by hand, you can just do X shape, and then from the inside to the outside, you get that, right? If you want to have like a specific polygroup over there. Or you can just go and from the outside of your mesh, cut the entire thing, and you're gonna get that X shape. So now I have this, this, and this. And I can, well, I can get rid of that section over there, but I mean, delete hidden, and now I want to have, not the knife, sorry, slice. Careful using the knife with your mesh with open edges, kind of could give you some issues. And of course I'm using symmetry because I'm dumb. Oh, turn off B radius. Polygroup doesn't matter because it's always going to polygroup. Something like this, something like this, and something like this. So now we can just go over and have a little X over here and delete hidden. Now we have two X's, and we can just smooth. We can go to our brush over here, do auto masking, and I want to auto mask what is the group? What was it? Group masking. Mask by polygroups. There it is. So now if I smooth this polygroup, you have polygroups, so it's fine. It will only smooth that polygroup, right? So we could also just go to masking, the regular masking over here. Where is it? Masking and mask border. So now I know I'm not ever gonna touch that border. So I'm basically smoothing everything but keeping the border as it is. Right? And now I can turn off my auto masking. I think it's not working. So yeah, just smooth everything. It's not touching the border, so the silhouette stays the same. Doesn't matter which shape you're started out. If you started with a, I don't know, a sphere or whatever, depends, right? So I use this all the time because now let's say you want this to have clean topology, right? You have these polygroups you already know. ZRemesh, same, keep groups, smooth groups to like 0.1. And this is my formula. You can just experiment, right? ZRemesh, and now I want this. Well, this is giving me weirdness, so might as well just cut that out of the equation. So going to slice this out. Actually, I'm gonna do this. Delete hidden. And now ZRemesh again. A little better. Half. Half. I want to actually keep the freeze border, so it doesn't change the border, right? And I want to do same, see if it gives me a better result. Sometimes it gives you weird results because it doesn't want to, maybe no smooth groups. Yeah, because it's trying to retain that border to the best of its ability. So no adaptive size. It's not freeze the border, but not smooth the groups. So now I'll do half, half. Now we have a nice X shape over here. So this is how you would do an X. I don't know if this was what you meant by cutting the polygon in an X shape. So yeah. Alright guys, this has been it. It was fun. I know it went a little too fast for comfort, but that's hard surface, right? Hard surface just takes a lot longer than organic stuff, but you know, we did manage to do a couple of things that I wanted to show you guys. So let me just do the bend curve over here. So I want to push this out, and I want to push this out, and I want to move this in. So we have this neat little button over there. It's not a button, it's just a weird thingy. But yeah, so doing sculpting workflows with ZRemeshing and polygroups, not polygroups, sorry, panel loops, and keeping the topology clean and low poly throughout the entire process. I did manage to, next week I'm gonna do some more work on this, and then I can demo a few things, like for example how I did those panels. Well, they're not here. Huh, where are the panels? Well, I can just show you on the other one. Those panels right there, these panels, this is kind of easy to do. This is live booleans, right? But we can just, because this gives you the polygroups, right? So you can ZRemesh with the polygroups and still retain that shape. So it's pretty straightforward in terms of workflow. And it also gives you a nice low poly, so you can bake that. And yeah, so we did all of that. And basically the panels here are just, you know, Z modeler type of stuff, right? Same thing goes over here, some IMMs over there. This is panel loops already, like for this trigger over here. I actually prefer my new joystick that I just did in terms of shape design, right, than this one. This is just too flat. Might as just use this one, actually. So yeah, I can't go any longer than 9 p.m. my time because I'm in Portugal, right? But I hope to see you guys. Well, next week I won't be able to stream because I'll be out of the country. But I hope to see you guys in a couple of weeks. And don't forget to join on Monday for the Demystifying post-production. We're going to have the last episode of the Spooky Scene workflow series. It's going to be Dustin Valkema going over Cinema 4D and Redshift and how to render cool looking images with assets coming in from ZBrush. That's going to be super cool. And again, if you guys want me to showcase something very specific that you guys are having issues, just drop me a message on my Discord server. Just join there. And again, thank you, Zach. Just drop me a message there, or just send in on the questions and answers kind of channel on that server, and I'll be sure to reply if I'm not streaming. If I'm streaming, I'll just show you guys. And some questions that come in are a little bit more, it's not that they're complex, it's harder to explain via text, but sometimes it's something that I could just hey, do this, and you fix your issue, right? So it's also a good way to showcase your work in progress on the Halloween themed challenge. That's kind of an unofficial challenge, which is really cool. People have been just pouring out artwork, and I'm just baffled at how an unofficial challenge just turned into this trend, you know, just modeling stuff in ZBrush for Halloween. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. I know this was a slower stream than usual, but we did manage to make some pretty cool bases for our interior over here. And again, let me know if you need anything when it comes to some particular workflow, and I can cover it on stream. And I hope to see you guys next time. Monday, Demystifying Post-Production. Join me there with Dustin. Right? Alright, guys. See you guys later. Have a nice weekend. Have a nice Sunday. Or have a nice rest of the Sunday, depending on where you are in the world. Or have a nice morning, depending on where you are in the world. And I'll see you guys next time.